Welcome into the Awesemo.com MMA strategy shows. We're here to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 51, which goes down on Saturday inside the UFC Apex there in Las Vegas, Nevada, headlined by welterweight rematch Luque M. Muhammad and a range of other fights. We're going to break it down for you here over the next hour. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks later on the show. We'll talk to you about PrizePicks, which, by the way, I was on PrizePicks a little earlier. They got some Bellator props over there. So only on fight time, which I'm going to tell you, on those Bellator prelim fight times, if it's a preliminary card, you might as well just smash the under, because good chance that'll all come in, because we all know what the Bellator preliminary cards ultimately ends up looking like. As always, I am joined by the fighter, a.k.a. the president of the Hamzat Chimaev fan club, Pete the Heat Rogers Jr. Pete, look, last week on the show, I said I want to see Chimaev weather some adversity. And boy, did he have to weather that shot he took in the second round. Probably ends the night for most welterweights. Show me something. And first off, he did something I've never seen in the UFC before. Just chilling on top of the cage while he waits for his opponent to make the walk.
Yeah, it was amazing. What a performance by Chimaev. And a lot of people may not have been that impressed because they thought it was going to be extremely dominant. I did think he was going to be dominant, but I also thought the fight was going to go a completely different direction. I did not expect him to go out there and just completely throw down with Gilbert Burns on the feet and have no clear takedown to ground and pound type of game plan. And I do understand now why he was a little bit worried about the jiu-jitsu of Gilbert Burns, but man, oh man, that's a massive step up in competition, and he definitely passed the test. And I think that he showed that he can overcome adversity, that he has cardio. I mean, obviously he had to slow down a little bit. You can't go 100% for, 15 minutes. Not many people can do that. And I do think that he showed that he has better striking than a lot of us really even knew. I do think that the takedowns into ground and pound is what separates him from the rest of the division. And I think that will be shown in other matchups going forward. But man, I can't be disappointed in my boy Chimaev. I can't be disappointed with a lot of the rest of the other card. That was a historically poor card on my behalf. And, the Peter Yan losing to Aljamain Sterling was definitely one where, it's just a good game plan about winning rounds, and Aljamain Sterling getting the back, controlling the fight for the large majority is definitely going to bank you some rounds.
Yeah, you look over at DK, all the top five scores on the card were 8,000 above Volkanovski, who came in with 133.16. Fluff Hernandez looked great. Mike Malott, Chimaev, Alexio Olenek. Aljo was the number 6 scorer. He only scored 85.93 points with 6.9K. I mean, you have him in your lineup. You knew you were in good position. Only 4 fighters last week had over 100 points. Mentioned, Scott talked about Julio Arce missing weight by a pound and winning. He goes, when we see a fighter miss weight, should we always be alarmed? I think you always have to have some type of alarm up when a fighter misses weight. I mean, look, he didn't look good on the scale. I mean, let's just be honest about it. He didn't look good on the scale. That's why, we're talking about the fights here, but tomorrow we're going to be looking at these guys on the scale and ladies and say, was there someone that stuck out to you? I mean, it's part of the thought process. And Jared Vandera, bro, what are you doing?
He's an idiot. Yeah. My buddy Josh said, but before last week, it was like, you're asking a fighter with no IQ to have some fight IQ, and that couldn't have been more on point. And good call on the Alexio Olenek submission. That was just like I don't know. That was just it was a weird card. The second when Julio Arce, who looked like he was on death's door at the weigh-ins, then looked fresh and fine during the actual fight, I was like, it's going to be one of these nights, is it? And it kind of just threw me for a loop, because I've seen a lot of weigh-ins, and I'd probably say 75% of the time, when you see a fighter on the scale looking like that, where the medical staff might be pulling you from the bout, it tends to go in the direction of their opponent. And, it made me get off the Julio Arce bandwagon for that and take some shots on a somewhat ugly card on Santos. But man, oh man, that couldn't have been, further from the truth. Arce just kind of stuck and move and basically just outpointed him throughout the whole contest.
Come on, some commission, as long as you have a pulse, you can fight.
That's crazy though, but you know what I mean. It's crazy. Like if I looked at that and I was the commissioner, I probably would have pulled him, to be honest. I've seen a lot of fights, a lot of guys. If you're needing assistance and you're looking like you're going to faint, and I don't know, regardless, we're on to a new week. This card, I'll tell you what, you're going to be on the edge of your seat probably for the large majority of it because there's a lot of tilting matchups here. And this is another one where GPPs are going to be extremely weird. And there are some spots where I feel safe, but plenty of matchups where I can definitely see both sides getting a victory.
Especially when you have some big favorites on this card. Before we get into the main event, be sure to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and so much more. Once you're subscribed, hit that notification button so you know when a show goes live here on the channel. And if you're not an Awesemo Plus member, you will get a little peek what's behind the paywall. Today's free premium data and tools are MLB main slate ownership projections and NHL ownership projections. Of course, we do have our podcast giveaway going on as well. All you got to do is head over to the Awesemo podcast channel, give us a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. But Pete, let's get right into it. Main event, we got a rematch. Their first matchup took place at UFC 205. Since then, Conor McGregor's only won one fight. Just throwing that out there. We got Vicente Luque taking on Belal Muhammad. We talked about this on our betting video that we had over on the Odd Shopper channel. I mean, look, and you know, one of the questions I already saw kind of coming in there and say is, can Muhammad avoid getting knocked out by Luque like their first fight? Luque is dangerous. I do think the smaller cage is a benefit to Muhammad in this one. I mean, look, he can't get into a brawl, plain and simple. This is a fight that I want to get to both sides when we're talking about GPPs. 8,500 for Vicente Luque, 7,700 for Muhammad. I think the one fight that we look at Belal, it's that Stephen Thompson fight. Yeah,
for sure. So I am extremely interested in this bout. And as we saw last week, rematches don't necessarily have to go the same way the first one went, and it's been some time, and we definitely have seen an evolution to Belal Muhammad's game where he's less inclined to stand and bang and more inclined to engage in a grappling and takedown type of game plan. And I definitely think that's his path to victory because of the two, who's the more dangerous? It's definitely Vicente Luque. He's definitely more dangerous. He could definitely find the finish via KO, TKO, or submission even. He's just a prolific finisher for this division, and I really love both guys just from a personal standpoint, but also from a DFS standpoint. I like getting to both guys, and for this matchup, I will have split exposure. Now, I will say that we have seen Muhammad get knocked down several times in the past, but we've also seen Vicente Luque get sit down a little bit as well in some wars. Like he's been in some crazy wars, and anytime that he goes wide with some shots, I do expect Belal Muhammad to kind of close the distance and look to engage in some takedowns. So I'll have split exposure. I'll be getting to a ton of this fight, but I am going to lean towards the underdog in Belal Muhammad. I do think that he could win rounds. I see this going one of two ways. Either Vicente Luque knocks him out or Belal Muhammad wins a decision. I can really see this being an action-packed game. A game plan for both guys, and the smaller cage is just going to make me lean a little bit towards Belal Muhammad. But as far as like a betting standpoint, I think that there's better spots on the card. But for DFS, the price point of 8,500 and 7,700 on a 5-round bout, you have to have exposure to both sides. But it's a lean towards Muhammad.
Yeah, you mentioned about those knockdowns. The last time Belal Muhammad was knocked down in a fight, you got to go back to 2019, beginning of 2019 against Jeff Neal. That was the last time Muhammad's been knocked down. But I mean, look, if you tell me this thing is hitting the 4th round, to me, it's Belal all day long. I just think it really favors if this thing goes. But if you tell me this fight ends within 15 minutes, yeah, I think it's a Luque win. But look, the price point is intriguing there, but I would say I'm more intrigued on going with the underdog in this situation.
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen Vicente Luque struggle at times defending wrestlers, especially wrestlers where he cannot find a submission against. Obviously, Michael Chiesa just leaves his neck out there and got Darce choked pretty easily. And anybody that gets a little lazy will get Darce choked in the grappling situation. But Michael Graves, we've seen it multiple times. I forget the other fighter, Nathan Coy, I believe it was, on the Ultimate Fighter, where they can have success against, in the takedown department. And obviously that's a very, very long time ago. But I do think that Belal Muhammad is starting to show wrinkles of his game where this is a competitive fight. You're talking about on any given day, one of these guys can spoil each other. So give me Muhammad. I think that he's, somewhat going underappreciated, because of his because of the volatility of getting knocked out, but I definitely think that he has a path to victory. So leaning towards Muhammad.
It's kind of interesting when you look at this fight card, when you talk about fight placement, the fact of our next fight was put into the co-main event spot. Kind of surprised by that, of two guys making their UFC debut, two guys who have coming off the Contender Series. You got one guy actually fought twice in the Contender Series, another one who fought once, and that'd be Godzi. I was actually watching his Contender Series fight right before the show, and one of the things that he was able to get the takedown. Took a huge risk in going for the leg lock. It ultimately works out for him. I talk with fighters all the time about this, managing risk versus reward. That is the most risky thing to me to do when you're in a dominant position and you decide to go for a leg lock. Because if you don't get that thing, you don't get the submission, you're going to put yourself in an awful position.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're in a position to just get, ground and pounded like crazy. And he was getting hit with some big shots. It's just so happened that he was able to withstand those and basically just still pursue that leg lock and got the knee bar finish. But I feel like a submission win against Caio Borralho is going to be extremely difficult because Caio comes from an extensive jiu-jitsu background, training with Damian Maia, basically for a large majority of his life. A strong judo competitor as well. I really like his striking too. I think that he has some elusive striking with some pop. The issue always is if people can get blanketed by a strong wrestler, a strong Russian wrestler, and Ghazi definitely should have that game plan going forward. But I don't know, man. I really do like Caio Borralho, and I liked him in both of his Dana White Contender Series fights. I bet both of them both times. 7,800, I definitely think that there is some upside there. I do think that he's the better striker. And, Ghazi has faced, I would say, somewhat softer competition. And what happens if his go-to moves just do not work? And this tends to be a striking matchup. I think that Caio is going to excel in a matchup like that. But, it's weird. It's 185, not necessarily my favorite weight class for certain matchups. And I'll be leaning towards Caio Borralho. I think that at 7,800, there's just value on his side, given all of his skills. And I definitely think that the ceiling within the UFC is a lot higher for him than Ghazi.
Yeah, this is one of those fights that I kind of feel like it's, in a way, it's kind of a pick'em fight. I don't favor one guy more than the other, but I mean, look, you have two guys who've got that grappling base, and more times than not, when we see that, ultimately ends up being a fight that most likely plays out on the feet. Now, my second favorite fight on this card is the next matchup, and that's Miguel Baeza and Andre Filho. Miguel Baeza 8,700, Andre Filho 7,500. When we talk about value on under 8,000 fighters, Andre Filho is one of those guys for me this week because, I mean, look, you could sit there and potentially have some chin questions about Miguel Baeza. He does tend to get into a lot of wars here. But when I'm looking at that under 8,000 range over on DraftKings, of course, we don't have FanDuel salaries high at this point. Andre Filho is one of these guys I'm looking at this week.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And, for MMA slates, especially with slates with this many fights, people that are just necessarily going off of who we're picking in the matchup and not how we're necessarily explaining how exposure should work or how we should sprinkle some underdogs may not understand this. And this is a matchup where I could definitely see the underdog coming through. But Miguel Baeza definitely has fought some tough competition within the UFC, going the distance with Santiago Ponzinibbio, and where he was hurt a lot. It's the KO loss to Chaos Williams that's kind of like sticking out like a sore thumb. And recency bias is a real thing in this game, and everybody's going to, you're only as good as your last fight. So they're really going to, harp on that last defeat. I do think that Andre hits extremely hard. And in his debut against Michel Pereira, you did see that he threw 135 significant strikes, but he only landed 45. So that accuracy is not necessarily something that we love. You have Miguel Baeza, who threw 249 significant strikes against Santiago Ponzinibbio and landed 104. So they're both willing to go to war. I'm expecting that Miguel Baeza is the sharper of the two in regards to a smart game plan, sticking to the outside. Getting into a war has cost him in the past. Now, could he go out there and have poor fight IQ and do the same thing? Absolutely. Andre Fiallo could definitely capitalize. And at 7,500, he's a fighter within that range that I will be putting in my long shot pool because he definitely has power to change the fight in one shot. So I am expecting Miguel Baeza to just be the better fighter for 15 minutes, or as long as it lasts. And I think that he has some sneaky jiu-jitsu as well that a lot of people might be, underestimating in a situation like this if he needs to go to that. Now, it's a tough fight, volatile fight, target both sides, but I'm leaning towards Baeza.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a tough one, and of course, he's coming off that loss of Chaos Williams. This could be a volatile fight. I mean, this could be a boom bust type fight, But when I'm looking at those under 8,000 options, I mean, look, we're coming off a week where they just didn't come through for us. Is more of okay, who's going to have that option to potentially get me 85, 90, 100 type points, and potentially maybe that is Andre Fieldhow this week. It's just one of those fights that I do think you have to consider in terms of GPPs. Now, if you want to get access to all the great tools and content we have over at Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. You can get that for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and much more. And if you're just looking to play MMA DFS, you can sign up for an Awesemo Plus MMA package, which start as low as $2.95 weekly. Of course, Fantasy Cruncher is a add-on and can be easily be added with those packages at checkout, but it's not included in our base packages. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Of course, Fantasy Cruncher is such huge for me when I'm developing not just my MMA lines, but developing my baseball lineups and every NASCAR lineups, everything we got going on over here at Awesemo.com. I know Pete's big into playing MLB baseball. MLB is not treating me too good so far this start of the season. I need to get, it's been a little rough start here for me.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks. I've been getting backhanded left and right. And no, it's okay though. I mean, that's just how DFS is, right? The swings of DFS, and no matter who you are, you're going to experience it. Even the top players, you're going to have down weeks, and then next thing you know, you're going to have your best weeks coming up. It's just a matter of sticking to your process. As long as your process is correct, then you should be happy with everything. You can't always get the correct picks because some strange things happen in every sport, especially in MMA.
Next up, we've got a female matchup, Silva and Yanan. Silva, 9,300. Yanan is 6,900. Both these ladies come into this fight following a loss. Pete, what's your take?
Yeah, my take is that Mayra Bueno Silva should get this done pretty easily, to be honest. I think that she's the better fighter, the better overall fighter in a situation like this. Her wins have been somewhat weird because they've been quick submission finishes. And then in her losses, she's just kind of outstruck and dominated sometimes. And she's faced some tough competition where Wu Yanan necessarily hasn't. I think that this is a tremendous step down in competition going from Manon Fiorot to Wu Yanan. And that doesn't necessarily translate into instant success, but I'm going to think that the odds are extremely wide. And for women's MMA, anything can happen, and they shouldn't be this this wide. But I think that Mayra Bueno Silva should win this pretty decisively. I just don't think at 9,300 she's going to score all that well. Even in 2 first-round finishes, she scored 91 points against Romero Barella and 95 against Jillian Robertson. She hasn't attempted a takedown in the UFC, and she's had 5 fights in the UFC. So unless she does that this fight, I don't necessarily see how she's going to smash value. I think that she's going to win a decisive decision here. But at 9,300, unlike last week where we had tons of 9,000 options that really made our eyes light up, I think there's tons of 9,000 options that are safe wins, but poor performers, if you guys understand what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to kind of the price tag to me. It becomes a price tag equation. I mean, look, am I going to get to her in GPPs? Yes, but do I want to get to a ton because of that price point? No, not really. There's some other 9,000 options I'd rather get to. And one of those 9,000 options potentially is Pat Sabatini taking on TJ Laramie. Laramie 7,000, Sabatini 9,200. Of course, I already know kind of Pete's thoughts on this one. TJ Laramie, you want to talk about being short at 145 pounds. Yeah. He is 5'6".
Music to my ears when I used to fight at 45. Music to my ears. I'm like, yes, great. Obviously, these guys that are compact, they're pretty strong, but they definitely have to deal with the length and just being in a weight class that they don't necessarily belong in. And I think that Laramie has tons of skills. And I really thought that he was going to have some success in the UFC, and he definitely still could. but he hasn't done himself any favors. Losing to Derek Minner, that looked like a pretty soft matchup for him. And going against a guy in Derek Minner who, can get controlled in a lot of grappling situations and give up in certain ones, but he's extremely live to score submission wins. And that's exactly what happened there. And you saw TJ Laramie get a little lackadaisical and Derek Minner capitalized. You mean to tell me that you're going to lose to Derek Minner via submission? You're not going to lose to Patrick Sabatini via submission? I have a very, very hard time seeing that. If this fight stays on the feet, obviously I'm a little worried, but I do think that Patrick Sabatini is the real deal in regards to just his submission skills and just overall MMA game. I know him. I know his coach pretty well, Daniel Gracie, and they just always come prepared. Renzo Gracie Philly is just one of a really strong gym that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think that it's going to show in this matchup. So 9,200, I really like him here. I think that he's just going with a full camp. He's going to put on a show, and I definitely like Patrick Sabatini for the prop bet win via submission as a little sprinkle as well. So 9,200, I think that he's a way better 9,000 option than Mayweather Bueno Silva.
The one thing about TJ Laramie, I mean, this has been, when you talk about fighters that have been considered some of the best products that come out of Canada over the past couple of years, TJ Laramie was a name everyone talked about. Yeah. And the fact of it was September 2020, the last time we saw him in there. He was a massive favorite in that one, gets choked out. What kind of differences do we see him in here? But yeah, I think Sabatini, I mean, look, I think the question is just if Pat can't get a stoppage victory, can he be optimal at that price point? I think that's really the question mark with this one.
Yeah, that's definitely the question mark. But I do think that, say, even in a decision win, right, you would imagine that he would still score better than Mayweather Bueno Silva, who I'm expecting to win. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, she just likes to strike. And I think that she doesn't have the same upside as a grappler like Patrick Sabatini, where even if he can't find the sub, I expect him to get some takedowns. I just truly do. I think that he's shown that he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist and is going to push for it at all costs.
Of course, next up, we got a matchup that just came together this week as Munir Lazzez was supposed to take on Alisky Dos Santos. However, Dos Santos pulled out of this matchup, and now you got a fighter coming in who's coming off a win against John Howard in Lusa, 8-2, coming off a win there in XMMA. By people are not paying attention. Guys who are getting wins on those shows, a lot of UFC fighters that have been on those shows. Kyle Bochniak, who's been fighting for them, he is now in the PFL. He's stepping up to take on Bubba Jenkins in their featherweight tournament. So a big opportunity there for Kyle Bochniak here. But Munir coming here, I mean, obviously it was, when he was facing on Dos Santos, this was one of the fights I was looking at like, man, this could be an exciting fight, but now you got a guy stepping up here on just a couple days notice.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate it though, to be honest, because I thought that Munir Lazzez was really, really going to be for a hard time against Zaleski Dos Santos. I really like Zaleski Dos Santos. I know that age is creeping up on him. And Munir Lazzez showed in his debut that he has a ton of skills. But if you really think about it, man, Abdul Razak Al Hassan is not the guy that we thought. He's just not. Maybe that win isn't the same in 2022 as it was back in 2020. The loss to Warley Alves, definitely something that was a difficult one to absorb. The body kicks to ground and pound. I definitely know that Munir Lazzez is out in Vegas getting some cross training in. And I do think that the one thing going out and looking at his regional tape is his inability to defend takedowns sometimes. And Angelusa has some sneaky takedowns. And even in the Jack Della Maddalena fight, even in his previous fight against John Howard, we did see Angelusa go to that takedown well and even compete on the feet pretty well. And I'm telling you what, I think that Jack Della Maddalena's got the goods. You guys know, I'm big on him as a prospect within the sport. So I'm waiting for the prices to come out for this. I don't believe we have it yet.
No, it's not out yet, but we base it on the betting odds. I expect Munir to be anywhere from 87 to 8,900.
Really?
Well, he's a 2-1 betting favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you look at it, if you just want to take the betting odds aspect of this, Alatang is minus 180. We're going to talk about him later on. He's 8,800.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's kind of like music to my ears is finding an underdog with some wrestling upside, because I actually think that I'm going to pick Angelusa in a matchup like this. I understand that he hasn't fought the UFC fighters yet. He hasn't fought Abdul Razak Al Hassan or Warley Alves, but, you know, fighting a former UFC fighter and John Howard, who's at the tail end of his career. But Jack Della Maddalena, one of the best prospects in a back and forth type of bout where he could land takedowns. I want to see the prices, but I think that I'm going to go towards Angelusa with some upside, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, you look at both of his losses; they're both decision losses there. But yeah, that's what I would kind of expect there for salaries. Of course, FanDuel salaries are not out as we do this show. We'll move on to the next matchup, as it is at heavyweight, William Knight and Devin Clark. William Knight 7,600, Devin Clark 8,600. Obviously we saw what happened with William Knight in his last fight. I mean, he's I want to say he's 5'9". I mean, he's a stocky guy. And Devin Clark, to me, if it's Devin Clark, if I'm in Devin Clark's corner, I'm trying to wear down William Knight, put him up against the cage and limit making this a kickboxing matchup.
Yeah, and I think that Devin Clark does that naturally. He pins all of his opponents against the cage. He likes to wear on them. He likes to avoid danger at all costs, because I don't think that he has the best chin, to be honest. We have seen him get knocked out, and just he's a guy that when you see him get hit, he does not enjoy getting hit. And that's like something when you're watching film, you can tell that certain people deal with getting hit better. And I will tell you that Devin Clark does not deal with it well. And that's something where I'm going to get some exposure to William Knight. Like, I'm not going to write him off in a situation like this, because if he wins, it's because he touches your chin and he puts you out, or he chains together takedowns. And I don't think he's going to get takedowns against Devin Clark. I think Devin Clark will be getting the takedowns in this matchup, and pushing a pace that William Knight necessarily can't sustain. But if anybody's live in that underdog spot to find the chin and get a knockout win, you would imagine that William Knight has that potential. So I'll be picking Devin Clark at 8,600, but similar to Andre Fiallo, William Knight's in that underdog KO pool, definitely at 7,600.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what scares you a little bit. William Knight has been showing about going to decision, and at 7,600, I just don't know in decision win if he could score enough that would ultimately get, because you don't look at him as someone who's going to look to utilize his wrestling there. Next up, let me bring this comment from EO22. He says, if Clark can control his fight on the ground, I think he wins. But Knight is a powerful striker and is live for a KO at any moment. He's got to avoid those big shots. Keep Knight on the ground. And then Joshua says, he goes, I feel like William Knight's power is overrated.
I don't hate either one of those comments, to be honest. I do think that William Knight hits hard. Like, he definitely hits hard, but some of his spectacular performances have been against some, I don't know, not necessarily soft competition, but the kid on Contender Series where he just got the guillotine. Remember, he got destroyed. He's from Factory X. And he got destroyed, and then he pulled out that last second guillotine like a couple weekends ago. I forget his name.
Cody Brundage.
Cody Brundage, yes. Like, he hit him. He does not like getting hit as well. You have a KO over Fabio Charant, did not have the best success in the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, he hits really hard, but he's just a powerhouse. So that if you have to give him his flowers on some things, it's that he can get good takedowns if he's the better wrestler in a situation like that, or he's just going to try to punish you when you engage with them. So I definitely agree with what they're saying. And I think that Devin Clark should do enough in a matchup like this where, he attempts a ton of takedowns, like over 10 takedowns in multiple fights. So he just needs to land one around, and I think he'll be all right.
Samuel, appreciate you in the super chat. We'll get to your questions at the end of the show. Of course, this is the Awesemo MMA strategy shows. We're getting you ready for UFC Vegas number 51. We are sponsored by PrizePicks. Be sure to use the promo code Awesemo for $100 up to $100 first match deposit as a bonus. Of course, be sure to use all the prop tools we have over Awesemo.com to help build your lineup. You get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up using the link in the description of this video and make a deposit at PrizePicks. You'll receive an email within 24 to 48 hours to redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And when I was over on PrizePicks earlier today, got a little excited, Pete, because I saw we got some Bellator props over there at PrizePicks. It stuck out to me, and I was like, oh, we got some Bellator fight time. I was like, Oh man, Pete, I'm just telling you right now, if I know, if Prize Picks is available in your state, which it is here in Florida, I am going to be hammering some of these Prize Picks lines over there on Bellator, especially on these undercards over there at Bellator. I'll tell you the ones that the first one that jumped out to me, Pete, was the fight time of 4 minutes for Tyrell Fortune taking on Raheem Cleveland. Just give me the under. I'm not even questioning it. Just give me the under. I think he takes Raheem Cleveland down and he hammers him out.
I haven't done any tape study on Bellator yet, so I'll have to take your word for it. But I do think that Tyrell Fortune is pretty good.
I'll tell you the other one's over in terms of Bellator. The Aaron Pico 5 minutes. He's now taking on Adley Edwards. Adley Edwards stepping up here on short notice as his initial opponent, Jeremy Kennedy, pulled out of the matchup due to an injury. That is one that does stick out to me. Also, in terms of on the UFC fight time, Pat Sabatini, right now, that number is at 14.75. I like the under in that one. Those are the ones that really stick out to me in terms of the fight times over there. Takedowns, as I was looking at this one, there wasn't a ton that really stuck out to me that I just thought was a great number over there. But one that I will tell you I might be looking at the under on is Rafa Garcia under 2.5 takedowns.
Yeah, I don't hate that one. I do think that Ronson's going somewhat overlooked on this card.
I'm just saying, when you look at all those Bellator fights, there's a reason. Some people in the MMA community may call the Bellator prelims the human sacrifice hour. That may be a term you see on MMA Twitter tomorrow night. It just happens more times than not. A lot of the fights on the Bellator, especially the local fights, tend to not last very long.
Yeah, no, you know what's going on.
Look, here's a good piece of advice. If you're going to play these props over at Prize Picks, just go on the Fighters Tapology, see if they're a local fighter. If they are, smash the under. Just being honest, bro. Just being honest. You know I'm right.
Yeah, I can't experience this because it's not legal in my state. So if you guys can, definitely take up what Jason's saying.
Yeah. So of course, be sure to play over there at Prize Picks. Of course, get 1 free month of also plus platinum when you sign up, deposit, and play over at Prize Picks. Of course, you get an email within 24 to 48 hours of how you can take advantage of that free month of Awesemo plus platinum. We'll move over to another female matchup. You got Landsberg taking on Kianzad. Kianzad 9,100, 7,100 for Landsberg. And this is one where, to me, it's played the favorite or pass on the fight.
I love Pannie Kianzad. I just really do. I think that she's a very talented fighter, not necessarily the best DFS performer, because in all of her wins in the UFC, she hasn't broke 80 fantasy points. I do think that she is just a safe win for a lot of parlays. I think for, expecting it to go the distance, it's definitely possible and usually is for women's MMA. I do think that she is a much improved fighter now than she was back when they first had their encounter. So Pannie Kianzad, I think, has some sneaky upside in a matchup against Lena Landsberg, who has been dealing with inactivity and also just inconsistency throughout her UFC tenure. I don't necessarily think that she's going to be able to get takedowns against Pannie. I think Pannie's going to be able to do whatever she wants. If she wants to get a takedown, she can. She wants to keep it on the fight and treat her like a punching bag, I think that she can. Lena Landsberg's not a bad striker. She got her nickname, the Elbow Queen, for a reason. I just view Pannie Kianzad in such higher regard in 2022 than I do Lena Landsberg. So Pannie's a very safe fighter for a lot of my parlays and somebody I will be getting ownership to. It's just pretty similar situation that the Mayra Bueno Silva's in, where I expect them to be safe wins. It's just, do they score well enough? I mean, I think that they're facing bottom end competition compared to what they have been facing. So they both could find finishes on a card like this, and that maybe they could outperform their usual points. But I really like Pannie today.
Landsberg hasn't fought in 2 years, 40 years old. Let me ask you, who do you think her best UFC win is against? Lucy Padova, Gina Mazzani, Tanya Evinger, or Macy Chiasson?
It's got to be Macy, especially in this day and age. I think that Macy's pretty talented, but I don't know. I mean, that fight, she didn't really do a lot. I mean, she banked some rounds in, but she didn't score that well. 67 fantasy points, and yeah, Lena Landsberg win. She'd have to absolutely do something spectacular for me to want to consider her, and I don't see that happening. I think Panty's a pretty safe win.
Yeah, the only thing that definitely sticks out to you about Panty, the last time that she got a stoppage victory, you got to go back to 2014.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's more than capable. A lot of fighters don't start finding finishes, and all of a sudden, like Tanner Boser started knocking everybody out, and he had like 90% decisions. You know what I mean? And for women's MMA, it's even less likely that finishes occur, especially for stand-up. But I think that Panty has definitely the striking edge in a situation like this.
Next up, we have got a matchup of another big favorite, Jakar Close, taking on Brandon Jenkins. Jakar Close at 9,400 on DraftKings, 6,800 for Brandon Jenkins. And of course, Brandon Jenkins stepped up on short notice to make his UFC debut at back last year and proceeded to get taken down 6 times that matchup. Jakar Close, you know, you see that number, his mindset's got to be take this fight to the ground.
He definitely could, and he should. He attempted 7 against Christos Giagos, 6 against Bobby Green, 7 against David Tamor, 7 against Mark Chikasi. So I think there's an easy path to just ragdolling Brandon Jenkins. That's Brandon Jenkins' one path to victory is just landing something stupid. And when you're extremely unorthodox, you bail yourself out of bad positions just by throwing some crazy spinning techniques, elbow techniques, flying knees. I don't necessarily think that he's like a better fighter than Jakar Close at all. And the odds suggest that Jakar Close should make quick work of him. And if you've seen who's Jakar has fought, I mean, Beneil Dariush, Christos Giagos, Bobby Green, Lando Venata, Mark Chikasi, like strong competition where Brandon Jenkins hasn't. He got destroyed against Rong Zhu. And this is a pretty easy spot for Jakar Close if he's the same fighter. And I want to kind of expand upon that. But at 9,400, I think that he represents some of the best upside on the slate because it's takedown upside, it's KO upside, and it maybe even submission upside. I just think that he's just the way better fighter. But we do remember where Jakar Close has been dealing with some like concussion issues since that whole issue at the weigh-ins where he got shoved. And my buddy Josh, brought it up to me before the show, and it was a great point. And I'm like, yeah, you hear about athletes, especially NFL players, where like, I don't know, Jabed Best is a guy that I don't know, I for some reason always sticks out to me where concussions, once they start experiencing them, they're usually never the same. And that's something you don't want to hear for MMA fighters. But it's hard for me to want to put Brandon Jenkins into my lineups just because of that. I'm definitely going to be favoring Jakar Close. I think that he wins 90% of the time, and I think the odds are fine.
Next up, we have got a match between Rafa Garcia and Jesse Ronson. Jesse Ronson, 8,200 for Rafa Garcia.
Sneaky fight. Very sneaky fight because Rafa Garcia, shoots a ton of takedowns. He attempted 12 against Natan Levy, 12 against Chris Gruetzemacher. I think that Jesse Ronson is pretty strong. And he's defended 8 takedowns against Michel Perzeras. Obviously, that was back in 2013. And defended 8 takedowns against Kevin Lee. That was back in 2014. And stepping up on short notice against Nicholas Dalby, ended up having a spectacular performance. And I think that Ronson is one of the best underdogs on the slate because I'm not convinced that Rafa Garcia is all that good, truthfully. I know that Chris Gruetzemacher, kind of put a pace on him and backed him up and, just kind of was there, present, and didn't give in to the pressure of Rafa Garcia. And you saw Rafa not really be able to handle that all that well. And I like Jesse Ronson. I think he hits really hard. I think he's just a very talented fighter that hasn't really had the success. And if you look at his box scores, if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and they're just going to see he lost 3 straight between 2013 and 2014. And then in his second time in the UFC, he just technically had his win overturned. So he hasn't scored over 20 fantasy points. So if people are basing their decisions off of that, Jesse Ronson is going to look like one of the worst plays on the slate. But I promise you that he's a lot better than what his box scores represent.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Ronson, I mean, veteran of this game, been around for a long time. But yeah, you're right. There's people going to look at those box scores and they're going to kind of say, I don't necessarily want to go there. But yeah, as long as he can stop the takedown, I do like him here in this spot. Next up, we got a heavyweight matchup: Chris Barnett and Martin Buday. Buday 9,000, Barnett 7,200. I mean, look, Chris Barnett. I mean, look, he's one of these guys. He's always been a fun, exciting fighter to watch. When he got into UFC last year, I will tell you, I was surprised. I did not think he would get to the UFC, but he gets here. But man, I don't like him in this spot at all.
Yeah, I think that he's just an entertainer, right? Like he's such an exciting guy. He's a phenomenal ticket seller and local legend down there in your area. And it's just like a guy that a lot of people loved. He's a fun guy to watch. He's going to go out there and he's just going to do unorthodox things for most heavyweights. And anytime that somebody's throwing spinning hook kicks, it's definitely wild for that division. And I do think that he is susceptible to just getting exposed again in certain situations. I'm not like all convinced that Martin Buday is like, a fantastic fighter by any means, but I feel like he's a physical guy that Chris Barnett could struggle against just because if Barnett gets pressed against the cage in the small octagon, you did see Buday have some success with some knees in the clinch and just weighing on his opponent. I do think that he is, a sneaky fighter in the 9,000 range that could end up pulling off a finish. It is heavyweight MMA. It's either going to be a sloppy 15 minutes or somebody's going to go take a nap. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Martin Buday could be the A side in this situation. And obviously he's priced accordingly at like a -240 favorite at 9,000. I'm okay with it. I'm going to side with Martin Buday here. I think that Chris Barnett really just, performed admirably in a spot where Jean Vellante was kind of just 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, I mean, look, the one thing about Buday when he has fighting contender series, to me, it was a showcase fight for him. Lorenzo Hood on the regional scene, just, man, how nice do you want me to be?
Yeah.
Not great records he was going against. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And so when he got on the contender series, I was absolutely floored by that. I do think this, I mean, look, the one thing is, Barnett, is he going to be the undersized guy in terms of height and reach in this matchup? So, I mean, look, he's going to throw some funky strikes out there. I mean, it's just what he does. He's always been that way. And, someone was asked about who he's trained with for a long time. He was actually one of the key guys that Alistair Overeem would bring in to, get some sparring rounds in there. Next up, we got a matchup between Jordan Levitt and Trey Ogden. Trey Ogden, 8,300. Jordan Levitt, 7,900. Already shaking your head.
Bro, I hate this fight. I might turn off my TV.
I mean, look, I like Trey Ogden this spot. The best way I can put this, he's just a better overall fighter. The thing about if I'm Levitt, if I'm him, I might just pull guard.
Yeah, I mean, I just have concerns about both guys. If it's on the feet, I have concerns that Jordan Levitt's just going to lose. And if Trey Ogden engages in grappling, I just have fears that he's going to leave his neck out there and, get choked out. It happened against Thomas Gifford twice. And, I think that Thomas Gifford really didn't perform the best in the UFC. I didn't think that he was all that bad at all. I thought that he has some skills, definitely. And, you lose to a guy via guillotine, and then in the rematch, lose to a guy via guillotine again. And I'll tell you what, Trey Ogden's submission defense is what scares me in this situation. And it's going to make Jordan Levitt as an appealing underdog that could, if in a win, score well because it's a submission win. Now, I think that the longer the fight goes, Trey Ogden probably would be the better fighter because he could, keep it on the feet, have a good game plan coming from a strong camp. I just really don't like this fight, and it just seems like volatility on both sides. It's hard to back either one of these guys. I'm going to go with your guy, Trey Ogden, just if this stays on the feet, but I probably won't have much exposure to either side. I just feel like they're going to just negate each other, and it's going to be a horrible fight.
So if anyone listened to my podcast that came out yesterday, I had Trey Ogden on. He predicted a second round submission victory. I think the likelihood is that this is either someone's getting submitted or we got a 15-minute decision. I do think if Trey Ogden takes this fight to the ground in top position, I think he has an advantage. I mean, Levitt, we've seen some scrambling abilities out of him here. I mean, look, Volatility, no question about it. My thing with Jordan Levitt is, I mean, how much have the striking skills evolved since the last time we've seen him? And can he get the fight to the ground? To me,
Yeah.
I understand exactly where you're coming from in this one. Also, one of the things that Trey told me that we were talking about something about submission, knocking somebody out. Would you rather your opponent tap or like in submission or TKO where the ref comes in? He goes, well, actually, I'd rather just leave the dead body where the guy passes out from the submission.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, choking somebody out's fun. But I'll tell you why that's like a red flag to me. And I might just like completely be changing my mind, because you said that he just said he's going to submit Jordan Levitt. Why even go down there? Like, why? If Jordan Levitt's good at anything, it's that he's a pretty talented submission guy.
Pete,
I know, but even saying that,
I've been doing this for a long time. Fighters lie in interviews.
Yeah, but why would you even say that though? That's not even mind games. I think that's just stupidity. Because
I mean, he flat out said, translation of what he said in the interview, he thinks Jordan Levitt sucks. He thinks Jordan Levitt's not on his level.
But I think that he could be overlooking him and get guillotined, similar to how like Thomas Gifford did. I'm changing my pick on the show. I'm changing my pick. I don't like how he said that. I'm going with Jordan Levitt to spoil it.
Look, this is the one thing I will say about Jordan Levitt is, I mean, look, every fighter is going to evolve fight in the fight out, but he is just one of those guys that I think he rushed to get to the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, same with Chase Hooper, right? Like Chase Hooper was not UFC ready at all.
No. And they tried to do the development deal, and you still saw what kind of happened.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a red flag for me. I'm going Jordan Levitt via sub. But all in all, I just hate the fight.
I mean, look, it's volatile. I mean, plain and simple, it's volatile. Next up, we got a match between Nunes and Hughes. Nunes 8,900, Hughes 7,300. Could you sell me on Sam Hughes in this one? Because I can't click that name.
I don't know, man. I think the only way that I could sell you on Sam Hughes is if she upped her volume and just like maybe incorporated some takedowns. I think that she's pretty hittable. And the other way that I could sell you on Sam Hughes is possibly because she's had 3 UFC fights compared to Estela Nunes's 1 fight in the UFC. And it's like, yeah, well, she fought 3 times in the UFC, so maybe she'll be better. I don't necessarily know about that. I think that Estela Nunes priced that high is pretty crazy, but I think it's largely due to Sam Hughes just, not looking good. And, I think that, Estela Nunes surrounded by a strong camp, I think that she could, outstrike her on the feet. This is another fight where I don't necessarily have all that interest in, if I'm being honest, as far as like DFS. If I had to pick one side, obviously I'd be picking Estela Nunes. I'm picking her to win. I just feel like Sam Hughes will get decisively beaten for 15 minutes.
Could be a little bit of a leverage spot potentially with Nunes based on ownership. Could be.
Yeah.
If you're, because that's one of the things I always do is sit there, look for those lever spots. Of course, one of the things that Pete and I love to see after the fights are those winning screenshots. We want to see you go into the Awesemo Hall of Fame this week. Of course, what you got to be doing. Rock that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. Tweet your wins at AwesemoHOF, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you got to do is finish in the top 3 of the contest with over 5,000 contestants. Of course, you can only win that once per calendar year. Congratulations there to Beaker going out there and winning $3,000 there at an NBA contest, taking down second place in a 20 max. 20 max are definitely a go-to for me. Also, I will congratulations to the boss man, Alex, taking down first place there in the NASCAR Truck Series. Of course, you got to check us out there on Sunday for Live for Lock, myself and Chris. Also, Alan taking down $10,000 in an NBA contest over there on FanDuel. Also, got some FanDuel contest winners over there as well on the baseball side of the equation, Justin. Also, Hayden taking out an 11-leg parlay. Kudos to you with what you're able to do over there. That is absolutely nuts. I was listening to Anakin Florian podcast.
Yeah.
And so I guess apparently a guy that was on Ray Longo's flight to Jacksonville, who might have been talking a little little trash to him about Aljamain Sterling, and down there. I guess apparently he had like a 12-leg parlay, 10 of them on baseball, 2 of them were on the UFC card, had already hit all 10 legs on the baseball.
Wow.
He had Volk and Peter Yan.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Peter Yan destroyed everybody's parlays. He really did. Yeah. And mine included.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of you get to that point. If you hit 10 and you got 2 more, you might as well just cash out at that point.
Yeah. I mean, some people let it ride, and I get it sometimes, but sometimes safe money's better than no money. So
yeah, apparently it was like to win $1 million.
History does not remember cowards, Jason.
If you told me I can cash out for $200K, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, bro, I'm out.
Dude, this is the fight game. I've seen crazy stuff happen on fight days.
I told you this, right? I had a 7 or 8 leg parlay, and I was gonna win like between $5,000 or $10,000. I got on a smaller bet, but it was really nice. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was my final one. He was my most confident. He was against Anthony Pettis, completely dusting him. All of a sudden, like round 4, after Anthony Pettis was just getting destroyed, or whatever it was, round 3, Anthony Pettis throws a Superman punch and knocks out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I cried man tears. So no, it was definitely a tilting experience. My buddy has a video of it. I was pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
That's go to the fridge and just start drinking, Pete. That's all that is.
Yeah, dude.
Drink away your sorrows. Of course, our opening matchup of the night, you got Alatang taking on Kroom. Alatang 8,800, Kroom 7,400. Had Kevin on a podcast this week. I didn't get too much insight into his game plan on this one. I thought he was very he was holding everything in on what his game plan is on this one. But to me, it's got to be about he's got to keep this fight on the feet.
Yeah, so I actually have some interest in the underdog, but I will be picking Haley Alatang to win the fight. But the reason I have some interest in Kevin Kroom is because that he can go to the takedown well as well. Not to much success, but he can do it. And he attempted 16 takedowns against Alex Caceres and lost decisively in a decision. Outside of that, we haven't seen him have offensive takedowns, really. He only attempted 1 against Brian Kelleher. Kelleher was the better grappler in a situation like that. And I do think that Kevin Kroom was having plenty of success on the feet against Brian Kelleher and looked like he was the better striker of the two. And his range is going to be a difference maker in this fight as well. Haley Alatang supposedly is like this phenomenal, accomplished Asian wrestler who hasn't really gone to the takedown well outside of his split decision win against Ryan Benoit, where he went 4 of 13 takedown attempts. You would imagine that training with Fight Ready would start to get back to his roots a little bit, because I have heard great things about his wrestling. And I think that you need to do that against Kevin Kroom. Kevin Kroom regionally didn't expect him to make it into the UFC. He did, though. Props to him. Mm-hmm. James Krause in his corner. I'm sprinkling exposure to Kevin Kroom, but I feel like the cut to 135 might be a little bit too much for him. And Haley Alatang hits pretty hard, could push a pace and get takedowns. Haley Alatang might be one of the sneakiest spots on the card at 8,800, and I'll take my chances.
Before we get into the super chat there from Sam, let's go straight up fight picks. Main event, I'm going to go with the underdog, Muhammad.
Yeah, leaning Muhammad.
Co-main event, who you got?
I'm going to go with Kyle Bahayo.
I will agree with you on that one. Baeza and Fialho, this is a tough one for me. I think this fight's closer than the odds, but I'll side with Baeza.
Yeah, Baeza. I don't like it, though.
I do like Silva against Yunnan.
Silva, confidently.
Sabatini, I'm with you on that one of him over Laramie.
Sabatini.
Laziz and Lusa. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I think I like what you were saying there earlier on the show.
Yeah, I like Angelusa.
Devin Clark, William Knight. I will go Devin Clark. I know we're both going to agree here on Panny Kianzad. I'm sure we're both going to agree here on Drakkar Close.
Yep, I like both of them.
I will go with Jesse Ronson over Rafa Garcia.
Ronson.
I will go Boudet over Barnett.
Boudet.
I guess we're going to disagree on this one. Give me Trey Ogden.
Levitt. Turn the TV off.
Turn the TV off. I think you must watch. You must watch. I will take Nunez against Hughes.
Nunez, yeah.
And I like Alatang against Kroom.
I'll go Alatang as well.
Mentioned the super chat from Samuel earlier. His over under 6.5 on finishes.
I'm gonna say under. It's a good line.
Ooh.
You're over here counting. I'm shooting from the hip. I'm saying under. I think
I was going through. I think I've got 6 that I feel like have a good chance to end by finish.
Yes, Sam, my boy.
I will say I had a lot of decisions last week.
You're gonna say it's a crazy week?
I say crazy week. Give me the over.
Okay.
Smaller cage,
Yeah, that's good logic.
The other thing is I mean, look, the Bellator card to me on tomorrow night's a much better card, top to bottom than this one. So
Agreed.
these are usually the cards that kind of do deliver there. Top 2 cash, top GPPs. In terms of GPP plays.
Well, top 2 cash for me. I think that close looks like a pretty good one. I honestly like all the 9,000 options look like pretty good cash. The GPP ones that stick out are Close and Sabatini because of finishing upside.
Yeah, no question about that. In terms of I'm really looking at that Baeza Fijo fight in GPPs just because of I could very easily see someone getting knocked out in that one. Pat Sabatini, I think, is another interesting play there in GPP. Favorite inside the distance fight. So I'll just start labeling some of these out. Levitt, Ogden, Boudet, Barnett, Close, Jenkins, Baeza, Fiejo, and those would be my top ones.
Yeah, I would agree with the former two.
In terms of upsets and fade of the night, I don't see myself getting to a ton of Nunez and Hughes. I won't exit out, but I'm just going to very much limit exposure there. And then Silva Yunnan is probably another one I'm going to limit exposure to.
I like the Silva side, just because I don't think that Yunnan's all that good. But yeah, I would agree with you that my least favorite is definitely the Nunez and Sam Hughes fight.
Looking about top optimal plays, man, the Jakar Close, if that thing goes 3 rounds, he could rack up a ton of takedowns if he goes that route.
He definitely could. I think the main event's interesting too. We got pretty cheap prices for both of them. So they make them like GPP commodities. It's just, do they smash? Like, do they score well? Sure. Do they smash? Not necessarily sure about that.
Of course, we'll be back here on Saturday, live before lock, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Pete, I'm playing in a golf tournament that morning, so hopefully I don't get too sunburnt.
Oh my God.
may not have to put the lights on here in the studio.
I got a women's self-defense seminar at my gym. So hopefully I don't get put in the suit. We put somebody in the suit and we do a whole seminar, and the women beat the absolute hell out of the guy in the suit. So hopefully I'm not the guy in the suit.
You're kind of like the guy who runs the facility. Shouldn't you have like the choice who goes in the suit? Yeah,
exactly. But sometimes people, I'm sick. I'm calling out. I'm not showing up. Somebody's got to get in the suit. So if somebody's got to get in the suit, I'm throwing myself on the line.
Like, I feel like there's only one person who would have leverage over you. That'd be Senior.
We ain't putting Senior in the. We ain't putting Senior in.
No, suit. But I feel like Senior would say, "Hey, Junior, you're going in."
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He wouldn't even have to say. I would definitely put my body on the line first. But hopefully the people that are supposed to be in the suit show up. If not, I'm going to pick somebody randomly in this chat, and they're definitely going to go in it. Maybe Tyler. We'll put Tyler in the suit.
Yeah, show up to watch Pete at his gym get choked out by 20-year-old college chicks tonight. It's going to be a great performance. Follow him on Twitter. He'll post live updates.
Absolutely.
How much do you sweat in that suit, by the way?
This suit is crazy. It's like
it's a workout on its own, huh?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. But of course, we'll be here on Saturday live before lock. Of course, be sure to keep it locked here at Awesemo all day long. Come up here later on today, 5 o'clock Eastern time. We have got MLB deeper diving is ready for tonight's MLB slate. So let's go wrap it up for this edition of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. We will talk to you on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Have a good day, everybody.